The royal hall of the Virexi Empire glittered like a dream. Thousands of glowing lanterns floated above the silver floor, and music filled the air like soft waves. Every noble of the empire stood tall in their shining robes. It was a day of peace, of unity, and all eyes were on Princess Lyraya, the future ruler of the Virexi. She stood at the center of the hall, tall and graceful, her violet skin glowing softly under the crystal lights. Her eyes held calm confidence, and yet there was something fragile about her smile, something only one man noticed. That man was Sergeant Daniel Cross, her human guard. He stood behind her, silent and still, wearing the plain black uniform of Earth's soldiers. His face was unreadable, his posture perfect. Around him, the alien nobles whispered to one another. Some sneered, some laughed softly. "A human, guarding our royal blood?" One alien muttered. "How low has the Empress fallen?" Another hissed. Daniel heard it all but said nothing. He was used to being called names. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, small and fragile compared to the towering alien races, but they were also stubborn, loyal. And Daniel was more loyal than most. The Empress herself had chosen him for her daughter's protection after the peace treaty between humans and the Virexi was signed. "Humans see danger, others do not," she had said. "They act when others hesitate." That was why Daniel stood there now behind the princess while the entire hall waited for her to begin her speech of peace. The music quieted. The hall fell silent. The princess took a deep breath and stepped toward the podium. Daniel's eyes followed her carefully. He had been trained to notice everything, every twitch, every breath, every movement. That was when he saw it. Her hands, they were shaking. Only slightly, but enough for him to feel uneasy. He frowned. The princess never trembled before. She touched the silver goblet beside her and lifted it to her lips. A sip of golden wine. Then she smiled weakly and looked over the crowd, and then suddenly, she collapsed. The sound of her body hitting the marble floor echoed like thunder. The golden goblet rolled away, spilling wine across the steps. Gasps filled the air. Screams followed. The royal court froze in shock. "Princess Lyraya!" shouted one of the nobles. "The princess! Someone help her!" Before anyone could move, Daniel was already running. He reached her side in seconds, dropping to his knees. He touched her neck, checked her pulse, faint but still there. Her breathing was shallow. The other guards tried to push in, but Daniel's voice cut through the noise like steel. "Stay back," he barked. His tone carried the command of a soldier who had seen death before. The others hesitated. Daniel leaned closer. "Princess, can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open weakly. For a moment her lips moved. Her voice was soft, almost broken. "Not poison. Daniel, the crystal," she whispered, and then her eyes closed again. Daniel froze. He looked down at the necklace around her neck, a shining blue crystal that always glowed softly. Today it looked different. The glow was darker, pulsing faintly like it had a heartbeat of its own. A chill ran through him. He remembered her telling him once that the crystal was an ancient relic, a gift from her ancestors. She said it protected the royal bloodline, but now it looked alive. The nobles shouted in confusion, some accusing the humans, others calling for the royal physician. Daniel ignored them all. His instincts screamed that this wasn't poison or illness. It was something deeper, something connected to that crystal. He gently lifted the princess into his arms. "She's alive," he said firmly. "Get a healer now!" As he carried her out of the hall, hundreds of alien eyes watched him. Some glared with suspicion, others with fear. But Daniel didn't care, because he knew something none of them did. The princess hadn't fallen because of an attack. She had fallen because of something inside her, something no one understood, and Daniel was the only one who had seen the truth. In her eyes before she collapsed, he would find out what the crystal really was, even if it meant standing against the entire empire. The royal healers rushed into the chamber, their glowing hands moving quickly over the unconscious princess. Strange blue light danced across her body as they tried to stabilize her. The air smelled of strange herbs and medicine. Daniel stood near the door, his hands clenched behind his back. His uniform was torn from carrying her, but he didn't care. His eyes stayed fixed on her face, so still, so pale. The same princess who once smiled softly at everyone now lay motionless like a doll made of glass. The chief healer turned to the Empress and bowed. "Your Majesty, she is alive, but her energy has been drained. Her life force is weakening. The Empress, tall and regal, tried to hide the fear in her eyes. What caused it? She demanded. The healer hesitated. We do not know. There are no toxins. No damage, only something foreign. Something ancient. Daniel's eyes went to the necklace again. The crystal at her throat pulsed faintly, its light dim and strange. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. He took a step forward. Your Majesty, he said respectfully, it's the crystal. She whispered it before she collapsed. It's hurting her. The nobles turned toward him instantly. Murmurs filled the room. Some sneered. Others gasped. One of the elder advisors shouted, "Silence, human! You dare accuse a royal relic of harming our princess?" Daniel met his gaze calmly. I was with her when she fell. I heard her. She said, "The crystal." The Empress looked at him carefully, her golden eyes unreadable. You believe the relic is cursed? I don't know what it is, Daniel replied softly. But whatever it is, it's killing her. The elder advisor hissed. This is blasphemy. The royal crystal protects the bloodline. It cannot harm. But Daniel didn't back down. He took one step closer, his voice steady. Then explain why her pulse weakens when it glows darker. Explain why she said its name with fear. The room went silent. Even the healers stopped moving for a moment. The Empress stared at Daniel, her face tight with worry. Finally, she said quietly, "Leave us, all of you." The nobles hesitated, but they obeyed. The healers bowed and left. Soon only the Empress, Daniel, and the unconscious princess remained. The Empress moved closer to her daughter, brushing a hand over her forehead. Her voice trembled. She was given this crystal at birth. It has always glowed gently, always been warm. But now, her fingers stopped above the stone. It feels cold. Daniel knelt beside the bed. With your permission, I'd like to take it off her. The Empress looked torn. Removing the royal crystal was forbidden. It was said to protect the heir from spiritual harm. But when she looked at her daughter's fading color, her heart broke. She nodded slowly. Do it. Daniel reached for the necklace. The moment his fingers touched the metal chain, pain shot through his hand like fire. He gritted his teeth but didn't pull away. The glow of the crystal flared suddenly, turning deep red. The air around it vibrated with a low hum, almost alive. The Empress stepped back in shock. What is it doing? Daniel forced himself to unclasp it, ignoring the burning pain that crawled up his arm. The instant the necklace came free, the glow dimmed. The humming stopped, and Princess Lyria took a deep breath, her first full breath since she collapsed. Daniel dropped the crystal onto the table. His hand shook. It was scorched, the skin red and blistered, but he didn't care. The princess was breathing again. The Empress stared at him, disbelief and gratitude mixing in her eyes. You touched it? Yes, Daniel said quietly. And I'll do it again if I have to. The Empress nodded slowly, tears glimmering in her eyes. You have done what no one else could. But this is not over. If the crystal is cursed, someone must have placed the curse. Someone in this court. Daniel's eyes hardened. Then I'll find them. He looked at the glowing stone now lying cold and dark on the table. He knew it wasn't just a jewel. It was a weapon, and someone wanted the princess dead. And only he could protect her now. The palace of the Verexi Empire had turned silent after the princess's collapse. Rumors spread like wildfire through its shining halls. Some said the humans had poisoned her. Others whispered that the gods were punishing the royal family. No one spoke the truth, because only Daniel and the Empress knew it. And that truth was more dangerous than any poison. Daniel walked through the shadowed corridors, his hand still bandaged from the burn the crystal left. The pain was sharp, but it reminded him he was alive. He was a soldier, not a noble, not a scholar, but he had made a promise. He had promised to protect her. No matter what, outside the princess's chamber, 2 alien guards crossed their spears, blocking his path. No one may enter, one said coldly. Orders from the council. Daniel stared at them. I'm her protector. Move. The council overrules you, human. He clenched his jaw but didn't argue. He turned away, pretending to walk off. But as soon as they looked elsewhere, he slipped through a side door. Years of battlefield training had taught him one thing. Orders meant nothing if they put lives at risk. Inside the room, the air was warm and filled with the soft hum of medical devices. The princess lay motionless on the royal bed, her breathing slow and peaceful. For the first time since she collapsed, Color had returned to her face. Daniel sat beside her quietly. He looked at her for a long time, his expression softening. He remembered her laughter, the way she once teased him for always standing so stiffly. "Humans don't smile much," she had said. "You look like a rock trying to pretend it's alive." He had laughed then, a rare thing for him. Now he just sat in silence. A faint sound broke his thoughts. The door opened slightly and a soft voice spoke. "Sergeant Cross." It was Empress Valeria, her robes shimmering like liquid light. She entered the room and closed the door behind her. "The council is restless. They believe you've overstepped your place." Daniel nodded slowly. "They can think what they want, Your Majesty." "I did what I had to," the Empress sighed. "You saved her life. But you've made enemies." He met her gaze. "Enemies don't matter. The truth does." Her golden eyes glimmered. "And what truth do you seek, human?" Daniel turned toward the table where the crystal lay sealed inside a transparent container. Its once blue light now flickered faintly red. "That thing isn't just a necklace. It reacted to me. It fought me." The Empress's face grew serious. "Long ago," she began, "our ancestors made a pact with the stars. The royal crystals were said to protect the bloodline by linking their souls to ancient energy. But if what you say is true, something has gone wrong with that bond." Daniel looked at her sharply. "Someone tampered with it." The Empress nodded slowly. "Perhaps. But who would dare?" Daniel's mind went back to the court hall. The eyes of the nobles, the whispers, the pride and jealousy. He remembered one face in particular, Lord Sarath, head of the royal council. He had glared at the princess during the ceremony, his expression cold and unreadable. "Someone who wanted the treaty to fail," Daniel said softly. "If the princess dies, peace between our worlds dies with her." The Empress's expression turned grim. And a war would begin again. Daniel stood. His shadow stretched across the floor, his eyes hard with determination. "Then I need to find proof before that happens." The Empress looked at him for a long moment, then said quietly, "The council will not allow you to investigate. If they discover you're searching, they will imprison you or worse." He smiled faintly. "I've been in worse places." The Empress almost smiled back. "You humans, always so reckless." She placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Go then, find the truth. But remember, trust no one." Daniel bowed his head. "Yes, Your Majesty." As he turned to leave, he glanced one last time at the sleeping princess. Her face was calm, her breathing steady, and a lock of silver hair fell across her cheek. He whispered softly, "I'll bring you back to safety, Lyraya, whatever it takes." Then he disappeared into the shadows of the palace, a lone human defying an empire of stars driven by loyalty, and something deeper he couldn't name. The night in the Verexi palace was quiet but not peaceful. Shadows crawled across the tall crystal walls, and the air carried a strange tension. It was the kind of silence that warned of danger. Daniel Cross moved through the corridors like a ghost. Every step was careful, his boots making no sound on the shining floor. The Empress had given him permission to investigate secretly, but if the council discovered what he was doing, he would be executed before sunrise. He didn't care. He only cared about one thing, Princess Lyraya. She was still unconscious, resting in her chamber under heavy guard. The healer said she was stable, but Daniel knew the danger wasn't over. The crystal had done something to her, and whoever had changed it could strike again. He reached the Hall of Stars, a massive library that glowed faintly with silver light. Thousands of records were stored there, every royal secret, every ancient law, every forgotten story. If there was truth about the crystal, it would be here. He placed his hand on a control panel. The room recognized his presence with a soft hum. "Access denied," a metallic voice said. Daniel frowned. He had expected that. The Verexi didn't allow humans to touch royal data. But he wasn't a man who gave up easily. He took a small hacking chip from his sleeve, an old Earth trick, and pressed it into the panel. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and the doors slowly opened. Inside, rows of glowing tablets floated in the air. The air smelled of dust and old metal. Daniel moved to a console and searched the word Royal Crystal. Hundreds of entries appeared, but one caught his eye. Project Seraphis. He opened it. What he read made his blood run cold. The royal crystals were not natural relics. They were made using energy harvested from ancient beings, living entities from a forgotten world. He kept reading, his heart pounding. The energy was pure at first, but unstable. It required a host, a living mind to bond with. Daniel stepped back slowly. The meaning was clear. The crystal wasn't just an object. It was alive. And every royal heir carried one. Bound to their very soul, he clenched his fists. No wonder she's in pain, he whispered. Something inside that thing is feeding on her. Before he could dig deeper, the sound of footsteps echoed through the hall. Heavy, measured, not a guard's normal pace. Daniel turned quickly and hid behind one of the glowing pillars. 2 figures entered. Their voices were low, but Daniel recognized one instantly. Lord Sarath, the head of the royal council. The Empress grows weak, Sarath said. Her trust in that human fool is dangerous. If he continues his search, he might uncover too much. The second voice replied softly, Shall I eliminate him? Daniel's jaw tightened. Not yet, Sarath said coldly. Let him find pieces of the truth. It will make his fall more painful. When he learns what the princess truly is, he will break himself trying to save her. The 2 figures turned and left, their robes sweeping the floor. Daniel stayed hidden until the hall was silent again. His pulse was fast, his breath heavy. Their words echoed in his mind, what the princess truly is. He turned back to the glowing console and opened another file connected to Project Seraphis. What he saw next made his stomach twist. A diagram of the Verexi royal bloodline appeared. Every heir had a crystal connected to their life energy. But one name was marked differently, Lyria Verex. Her crystal was labeled Prototype Vessel. Daniel's throat went dry. She's not just wearing the crystal, she's part of it. He shut the screen off and stood there in silence, feeling something heavy settle in his chest. Everything he knew about her laughter, her kindness, her courage, was real. But now he understood why Lord Sarath wanted her gone, because if the truth came out, the Empire would fall. Daniel stepped out of the hall and into the darkness. His mind was filled with one thought. He had to reach the Empress before the Council did. He didn't know how deep this secret went. But one thing was certain. He would fight anyone, even the Empire itself, to protect the princess, even if the truth destroyed him. The morning light never reached the lower halls of the Verexi Palace. They were built deep within the mountain, silent, secret, and cold. And in those halls, Sergeant Daniel Cross moved like a hunted man. His face was marked with exhaustion, his clothes dusty from the night's search. He had learned a truth that could destroy the Empire. The princess wasn't just wearing the crystal, she was part of it. But now, the Empire wanted him destroyed. He reached a quiet corner of the palace and opened his communicator. This is Cross, he whispered. Requesting direct contact with the Empress. Priority, life or death. The device beeped softly, then went dead. Signal jammed. Daniel cursed under his breath. They were already onto him. He could almost feel the eyes of the palace guards watching from the shadows. The same men who once stood beside him now saw him as an enemy. Somewhere the council had issued the order, capture the human traitor. He turned down another corridor. Every step echoed. His heartbeat matched the sound, steady, focused, ready. Then he saw them, 3 armored guards blocking his path. Their silver helmets reflected the torchlight like mirrors. Sergeant Cross, one said coldly. By order of the Royal Council, you are under arrest. Daniel stopped. For what crime? Treason, theft of royal data, and the attempted corruption of the heir. He almost laughed. You've got it all wrong. I'm trying to save her. The guards raised their plasma rifles. On your knees, human. Daniel's hand went to his sidearm. A small human pistol, ancient but deadly. He didn't want to fight, but he had no choice. The council wanted silence, and silence meant death. The first guard fired. The blue bolt hit the wall behind him. Daniel moved like lightning, ducking, rolling, firing once. A clean shot. One guard fell. The others hesitated, and they had never seen a human move so fast. Daniel's years of battlefield survival came alive in that moment. He disarmed the second, slammed him into the wall, and sent his weapon spinning away. The last one aimed again, but Daniel struck first. A quick kick, a twist, and the rifle fell apart in his hands. When the hall grew quiet again, Daniel stood over them, breathing hard. He didn't kill them, only stunned. He wasn't here to take lives. He was here to protect one. He wiped blood from his cheek and whispered to himself, no turning back now. He moved toward the upper levels. The Empress's chamber was far above, but he knew the secret paths. The ones servants used, the ones not on the maps. Every step up brought more danger. Guards filled the halls. Alarms began to sound. Somewhere, a voice echoed through the intercoms. The human soldier has gone rogue. Capture him on sight. He reached a narrow passage near the throne room, and from there he saw something that froze him. Lord Sarath stood before the royal court, speaking to the Empress. His voice was full of false sorrow. "Your Majesty, the human has betrayed us. He seeks to destroy the princess. He is fleeing even now." The Empress's face was pale. She said nothing, but her eyes betrayed doubt. Deep down, she didn't believe it. Not complete. Really, Daniel clenched his fists. He wanted to shout the truth, to tell her what he found, but if he appeared now, the guards would kill him before he said a word. Then, something caught his attention. Movement behind the throne. The air shimmered faintly. A hidden door, he knew where it led. The secret path to the royal chambers. He took a deep breath. "Hold on, Lyria," he whispered. "I'm coming." As he slipped through the hidden door, his heart pounded. The palace lights flashed red, alarms echoing like thunder. The entire empire now hunted him, but he wasn't afraid. Humans had faced worse than this. They had survived wars, planets, extinction itself. If he had to stand alone against an empire of stars, he would, because somewhere beyond that door, a princess lay between life and death. And she had once looked at him with eyes full of trust, the kind that no soldier could ever forget. The hidden door slid open with a soft hiss, and Daniel Cross stepped quietly into the royal chamber. The air was dim and warm, filled with the faint hum of life support devices. The walls glowed faintly blue like the inside of a sleeping star, and there, lying on the crystal bed, was Princess Lyria. For a moment, Daniel simply stood there, frozen. She looked peaceful, too peaceful. Her silver hair spread like light across the pillow. The healers had left her connected to glowing tubes of energy, feeding her weakened life. He moved closer, his boots silent against the marble floor. His bandaged hand still burned from the crystal's energy, but he didn't care. He sat beside her and whispered softly, "You have to wake up now, Princess. They're going to kill me if I stay, but I can't leave without you." There was no answer. He took a deep breath, his eyes softening. "You told me once that humans were strange, that we cared too much. You said kindness made no sense to you. Maybe you were right. But I can't stop caring. Not about you." His words hung in the quiet air, then, faintly, her fingers moved. Daniel's heart stopped. He leaned closer and her lips trembled as if trying to form a word. Daniel?" He felt relief wash over him like a wave. "I'm here," he said quickly. "You're safe. You fainted in the hall." The crystal, her eyes fluttered open. They were bright, glowing faintly with an unnatural light. "The crystal," she whispered weakly. "It's alive. I can feel it. Inside me." Daniel nodded, his voice calm but full of worry. "I know, I read the records. They used something ancient to create those stones. They bound it to your bloodline. You're not just wearing it. It's a part of you." A tear rolled down her cheek. "Then I was never truly free." "You are now," Daniel said softly. "I took it off you." Her gaze flickered toward his bandaged hand. "It hurt you, didn't it?" He smiled faintly. "I've had worse." For a long moment, silence filled the room, gentle, fragile silence. Then her expression changed. "The council," she whispered. "They know?" "Yes," Daniel said. "They turned the whole palace against me. They want to destroy the truth, and you." Lyria's breathing quickened. "They won't stop. The crystal is power. It gives them control over the royal line. If I live free from it, their rule ends." Daniel stood, his eyes scanning the chamber. "Then we have to leave, now." "Leave?" she echoed softly. "There's nowhere safe. The empire belongs to them." He looked back at her, his jaw set with quiet strength. "Then we'll make a place. Humans have lived through worse than empires. You taught me that peace was possible. Now I'll teach you how to fight for it." For the first time, a small, trembling smile appeared on her lips. "You would fight the empire, for me?" Daniel stepped closer and looked into her eyes. "Not just for you, Princess. For what you stand for. For everyone they've lied to." The light from the walls reflected in her eyes as she whispered, "You are the strangest human I've ever met." He grinned softly. "That's what they all say." Suddenly, a sharp alarm blared through the chamber. The lights turned red. A robotic voice echoed through the palace speakers. Security breach in the royal quarters. Human target detected. Daniel's face hardened. They're here. He quickly disconnected the energy tubes and Larea gasped as strength slowly returned to her limbs. He helped her to her feet, steadying her with one arm. You can walk? He asked. She nodded weakly. For now. Good, he said. Because we're not dying in this palace. The chamber doors burst open and armored guards stormed in, their plasma weapons raised. Daniel grabbed a fallen spear from a statue stand and stood between them and the princess. Stay behind me, he ordered. The guard shouted, Surrender, human. Daniel's voice was calm, steady. You'll have to go through me first. The first shot fired, lighting up the room with blue fire. Daniel moved fast, deflecting the blast with the metal spear. The next second, he pushed Larea behind a pillar as energy bolts filled the air. She looked at him, at the human who stood between her and death. And for the first time in her life, she felt something unfamiliar but strong, not fear, not duty, hope. The royal palace trembled as the alarm screamed through its halls. Red lights flashed across the silver walls, casting long shadows that danced like ghosts. Daniel stood firm in front of the princess, the broken spear in his hands glowing faintly from the last plasma hit it had absorbed. Smoke curled from the cracks in his armor. He was breathing hard, but his eyes never left the approaching soldiers. Behind him, Princess Larea clung to the pillar, her strength slowly returning. The energy of the crystal still hummed inside her veins, wild and unsteady. Daniel, she whispered, you can't fight them all. He smiled faintly, a tired but warm smile. You'd be surprised what one human can do when he's protecting someone who matters. The soldiers surrounded them, weapons raised. Their commander stepped forward, his armor shining like molten silver. Human, he barked, you have broken into the royal sanctum and corrupted the heir of the empire. Drop your weapon and your death will be quick. Daniel's hand tightened around the spear. I didn't corrupt her, he said quietly. I freed her, the commander sneered. You are nothing, a primitive creature from a dying world. You think your life has meaning here? Daniel's eyes softened. I don't need meaning, just purpose. And she gave me one. Without warning, the commander raised his hand and fired. Daniel moved instantly, spinning the spear to block the blast. The explosion threw him back, his armor smoking, but he stayed on his feet. The floor cracked beneath his boots. Larea's voice broke the air. Stop, I command you! But the soldiers didn't listen. Her command meant nothing now. She was no longer the obedient puppet the council wanted. The commander raised his arm again. Kill them both. Energy blasts filled the hall, blinding white light everywhere. Daniel pushed Larea to the ground and threw himself in front of her. The plasma hit his chest and the impact threw him against the wall. The pain was blinding, but he didn't let go of the spear. Larea screamed his name. Daniel! He forced himself to stand, one knee trembling, his breath ragged. You have to run, he said through clenched teeth. Find the hidden passage behind the throne room. I'll hold them. I won't leave you, she shouted, tears burning her silver eyes. He smiled again, gentle, almost peaceful. You have to. If you die, everything we did means nothing. Then something inside her changed. The glow beneath her skin flared brighter, pulsing like a star being born. She stepped forward, her voice shaking with power. Enough! The air around her shimmered. The same energy that once enslaved her now obeyed her will. The walls trembled as light burst from her hands. The soldiers froze as their weapons melted into molten dust. The commander screamed as the crystal embedded in his armor cracked and shattered. Daniel fell to his knees, watching in awe. The light wrapped around Larea like wings, fierce and beautiful. She looked at him, her expression filled with both sorrow and strength. The crystal obeys me now, she whispered, because I no longer fear it. Then she raised her hand and the blast of energy pushed the remaining soldiers out of the hall. The massive doors slammed shut, sealing them inside the burning silence. Daniel tried to stand, but his legs gave way. Larea rushed to him and knelt down, holding him close. His armor was cracked open and his blood was dark against the silver floor. You saved me, she whispered, tears falling onto his face. He looked up at her with fading eyes. You saved yourself. I just reminded you what freedom looks like. Please, she begged, holding his face. Stay with me. He smiled softly, his voice weak but calm. I told you. Humans are stubborn. We never stop fighting, even when we know we can't win. Her heart broke as his hand slowly fell from hers. The light around her dimmed, and for a long time she just held him, the strange human who had changed her world. Outside, the palace trembled again, but this time not from battle, from awakening. Across the empire, the control crystals linked to the royal bloodline shattered one by one. The people looked to the sky as the artificial stars dimmed and real light returned to their world. The empire had fallen. Weeks later, a monument stood in the palace gardens, a statue of a human guard standing tall beside a princess with light in her hands. Beneath it were simple words carved in both their languages. He was not born of our world, but he saved it. And every morning as dawn touched the silver spires, Princess Leia would stand there, her crown gone, her heart heavy, and whisper softly to the wind, "You said humans never stop fighting, so I will not stop either." Daniel.